live over here, and I'm gonna start the recording. Yeah, well, I guess that's the point of a long memory, right?
Yes. I was watching Henry Louis Gates today, and he was doing the what is it, the between the Reconstruction and the Civil War, and he was talking about the long memory, and it was just amazing to me how the story that we were reading parallels with how the Daughters of the Confederation decided that they were going to rewrite the history of the Civil War. And so I said, where are the memorials?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're in a real struggle, over the truth.
And this started 100 years ago, so these are the great-grandchildren of the Daughters of the Confederate who have been spoon-fed this narrative, and now it is their Bible. So when you touch their statues, it is just amazing to just really unpack this in a different verbiage with a different perspective. Wow.
Yeah, so, all right, well, it's 6 o'clock. Let's see, the recording has started. Let me just check my messages again. I don't see anything. I hope Nicole can make it tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And get on video. Feels like we haven't seen her in so long.
I hope everything's okay with her eye. That's some serious stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was hoping she could come a little bit early one night, so that, I can kind of maybe help her troubleshoot the video issue.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, if there's anybody out there in public land watching us, we are just waiting to see if we have some other conversationalists joining us tonight. Vanita said she may come tonight. But she also said she may not. And when she comes, she's usually early. So I'm guessing she may not be coming tonight. Gio was on Facebook earlier today, and she clicked on the agenda. So I that makes me think she's in tune that we are here. So, I guess give it a minute.
Okay.
Oh, here's Gio. Good. Good. So I don't know. Now I'm thinking we might be it, Kim.
Okay.
Nicole I haven't heard from, so maybe she'll get here late. Vanita, I'm gonna say no. Janice, I'm gonna say no. And our new member, you said her name is Zabe? Zabe? Zeba. Probably not. So we may be the crew for tonight. Hey, Gio.
Hey, ladies, how are you
Hi,
doing?
Jill.
Hey,
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Didn't get washed away by the rain or electrocuted, so I'm good. No
Well, that's
tornadoes.
good.
Yeah.
Good, good, good.
Um,
Yeah. I can even hear y'all had a bad storm going on down there.
yeah, we have, and it's probably gonna come. A series of fronts will be coming through until like tomorrow. They're saying so. Yeah, this is spring. Spring in the Carolinas.
Oh, okay. Uh, all right. Let me close some of these windows. Uh, okay. And Gio, let me make you the co-host because I am probably going to get cut off at some point.
Oh,
Um, yeah, because I've gotten a message that my internet is unstable. So we'll see. I think it did good last Friday. So, you know,
yes.
we'll
All right,
see.
fingers
But
crossed.
Kim, I'm ready whenever you are.
Oh, good. Okie dokie. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. And let's see here. Tonight we are reading from Octavia's Brood, and we are going to be reading two stories, The Long Memory and Small and Bright, and discussing those stories. So we have our agenda if you needed to see that. And now what I'd like to do is to have each person introduce themselves. You want to start, Jill?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Georgette Moses, and I'm joining this elite group of ladies here from Columbia, South Carolina. My book is digital. Trust me, it's on my computer.
We trust you.
Trust you.
And
And
I am Michelle Odom in New York, Brooklyn, New York, reading the old fashioned way. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And I have both. I have a audio book and this book.
Oh,
So
cool.
Mhm.
it helps with the dyslexia to have someone reading while you're looking at the pages. I don't know why that feels so good, but it does.
Ah,
Oh, no, I agree. And especially if you have a good narrator. So, yeah, I have the audiobook too. So, yes.
Oh
who does
wow.
the who does the narration?
Her name is Jay Nay Fleming, and I had to look her up. She does a lot of books, audiobooks for people, stories for of people of color. So, a- and her name is in the first story we're reading it now. So I wonder
Oh,
if they know her, and I wonder if the author knows her that she
uh-huh.
used her name. So it's interesting
Hmm.
synchronicity. Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
I have a audio voice, and so it's annoying, and you have to get used to it. So it's not the sexy
Oh,
human reader. So
oh, yeah, yeah.
what you gonna do? What you gonna do? All right. So unless I've missed anything, why don't we jump in? Oh, I do want to say that we will end our discussion at 7:20, and then we'll have a talk about coming meetings and who facilitate. Okay.
Okay.
So we are going to start with key points and discussion questions, and we're starting with the long memory, and that is by Morgan Phillips. And I can start. The Long Memory is a story that explores the vitality I'm sorry, vitally important issues surrounding the Guantanamo Bay hunger strike through a fantasy story about C, an apprentice to Harmon, an elder of one of the most skilled memorials. C, I think it's pronounced C, a Psy, learns to delve into streams of memory stretching far outside of her own lifetime. And this is where her power lies. So the first question is, Councilman Hoyt, a prominent and wealthy merchant, has a plan to get even richer. But it means bloodshed and a quick sleight of hand to get everyone to agree to his plan. And so this is him speaking now. No, I think not. To unbind memory would be to free it. The memorials are meddlesome, but they do serve a useful purpose in containing memory. Now the people remember only what they need in order to go about their lives. To unbind memory would mean to restore full memory to all the people. It would mark our end. What we need only do is control memory through containing the memorials. A. Does the Hoyt character parallel with any historical or recent American leaders? If so, who and what was that leader's sleight of hand? And I'm not sure if I should just read all these questions and then we can answer whatever one you want. Maybe I'll do that. And then B, is the long memory a dangerous thing? For whom and why? Who does the long memory benefit and why? And then finally, do leaders like Hoyt, who scramble to pillage the last natural resources for their own empires, victimize the planet or its inhabitants the most? Please explain why. And you can answer any part of those. Yeah, who'd like to go first?
Go on, Jill.
Okay, well, Holt, I think he just embodies, the he's a compilation of every greedy, power hungry individual in a capitalistic authoritarian system, right? And who's spinning or wants to spin the narrative for their benefit. And so in order to do that, they have to either um, obliterate history or rewrite it or somehow manipulate uh, the people's feelings around what they believe is, history. And so we see that everywhere, just in every country where uh, be it, heads of corporations, or heads of countries or political parties have something that they need to hold on to or acquire. And the means of that is by telling the people, no, that's not what really happened. And I can prove it, or can you prove it? Oh, you can't prove it because now I have control of, your access to the facts, or I have, what do you call it? Uh, Facilitated a character assassination of the person or people who do have access to the real facts, right? We see that in different ways enacted. We've seen it in history. So I can't point to a particular person who's done it because it's so pervasive, right? It's oh, what's that word? I can't think of it now, but this is how the world seems to operate. The people in power. This is a basic. It's like the rule book: how to control people and countries, right, and
Mhm.
societies, is to control the narrative. Was this was that, even if it comes out, right, then there's a reason for it, that falls in line to what the indoctrination that they're trying to, push on the people. It's not how you thought it was. No, death, genocide was not really genocide. It was they sacrificed their lives so that we could have, spinning how the story is told. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Gio that it's such a pervasive problem. But I think that this Trump era um, is the worst I've ever seen in my lifetime. Um, the 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 fact that they're so blatant about it and appear to believe the lies. There's a term that I learned from the other book Gio and I are reading. The term is mythological warfare, and that's exactly what it feels like we're dealing with. Just today, I was reading something about some GOP madness they have going on, where they want the schools to teach the goodness of slavery. Because they want their children to know that the slaves loved their masters and took good care of them. So it's just really deep stuff going on. I don't have much good to say about Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney, but I have to acknowledge, since I like the truth, that that January 6th situation was just too much for them. And they have courageously been speaking the truth, ever since. They will not repeat the big lie. And they're catching hell for it. Because apparently, truth has never, really been popular. After my father died, my mother used to like me to be the one to say different things to my brothers, and she would say, well, you can say it because, you're not popular. So it's just that I have always leaned toward telling the truth. And I can tell you that it's never popular. The story, the myth, the fantasy, the delusion, the whatever, always seems to be much more digestible. So to question B, is the long memory a dangerous thing? Yeah, I guess it is. And, it's dangerous for those who want to perpetuate a lie, those who want to manipulate and oppress others. The more that people know whatever the truth is, the more they're not going to go along with however you're trying to program them. So, it's a danger to the controllers.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I was telling Michelle a little bit earlier about looking at Henry Louis Gates's show on the Civil War and to Reconstruction, and so I feel like that was a bit of the long memory to talk about Reconstruction and how well that was for African Americans, and how the advantages, and we were ready, even just a day out of slavery, African Americans were ready and became politicians and business owners and you name it. And so that had to be stopped. It was just like, the daughters of the Confederacy and different people, white men, just felt like they were not going to be governed by black ex-slaves. And so the violence that started after that, and the key thing to the violence for me is you just need a couple of people to figure out how to become the leader of the minions. And you always have this group of people who say, you are threatening white womanhood, or you are threatening this. And they don't stop to say, is this the truth? But all you had to do was say a white woman was raped, and all of a sudden you will burn down an entire town, never even saying if that person lived in that town. It's just amazing to me how Holt also needs to project this image that he is saving somebody from something, and that he's the hope. That he's the hope for something that doesn't exist. And the thing that amazes me most about the time we're living in right now is that the planet can no longer afford us. And so as opposed to saying, all right, whiteness, this is the time where we have to pull together with other people to stay on the planet as long as possible. To push back on destroying the earth for as long as we can. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying, well, we're going to take every resource and hell with the earth, hell with everything, as long as we can keep our whiteness. And so it's almost the opposite of a long memory. It's just like, we only live for today. And if we crash and burn, we're going to crash and burn. We don't want to know the truth. Because the truth is so obvious. I mean, the truth is so obvious. And the thing that I find ingenious about racism in American history is that Black people are trying to prove to white people that they're just as good as them. I just find that amazing, that the whole game is that we know you're just as good as us, but we're not having that. We're not putting it in our textbooks. We're not putting it anywhere. We refuse to tell the truth. So don't try to prove the truth to us when we already know the truth. So that's the thing that just amazes me. And when I think of Holt, now I think about the daughters of the Confederation and how they decided what went into the history books. They were the ones who put up all those monuments. Those monuments were their doing, and they were the ones who scrubbed the history, and they scrubbed recent history to make it sound like that the Confederacy may have lost the war, but they won the fight, and that they were on the side of right, 100%. And so I just reading this particular story and watching that episode, it just kind of shows you the power of this type of fiction to bring home a point. Excuse me. So, does anybody have anything else to say before we move to question 2?
No, we can move on.
Yes. And you notice I have 6 questions. We might get to them all.
All right.
I don't know. And Michelle, thank you for these beautiful images.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
no
just
problem.
okay. Would someone like to read question 2?
Okay, I'll read that. Preparing for the worst does not make it hurt any less. 2 days after the vote, they came to the library in the middle of the night. The smell of smoke woke Cy first. Within minutes, hands seized her in the dark and dragged her from bed. They thrust a burlap sack over her head, bound her hands behind her back. She heard shouting and the clanging of metal, the clash of swords. A. Over what seemed like days, Cy flitted in and out of consciousness. She had been on a ship. I am wondering what, if any, historical or generational memory came to mind in hearing that her capture involved days on end at sea. And yeah, exactly, the middle passage. Exactly. That was the imagery for me.
Hmm. That's what I thought of. I mean, it makes me wonder, are there other, you know, uh, people that have had that experience? But it certainly sounded like the middle passage to me. People jumping off cliffs into the ocean, you know, like sardines. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
It was funny when I was reading this section, I didn't know where the story was going, but I was hoping it wasn't going there. I just, I,
Can't.
I, I just felt like it would be too close to the bone. So
Mhm.
when it started to turn and it started to sound less familiar, it was a comfort in that for me. And I think that there are probably many stories, futuristic stories about slaves and the power of what happens on the slave ships. I've read one here, mother of I forget the name of it, but I need to brace myself and prepare for those stories because they're so visceral and to feel what who begot us and what they felt like on those ships, lying in waste, lying next to other bodies that had perished.
Mhm.
I sometimes I personally need to build up to that. So when it took a turn and it was a different type of human torture, not that that was any less or any better, but it just caused me to just have a space to breathe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kim, you really put into words what I felt when I came to that passage myself. You feel it kind of in your gut, and like, okay. And then she's like, all right, back to fantasy. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, good, thank you. Because, even though it feels so still so much now, right? Because we are reminded of these atrocities daily in
Mhm.
different ways and so I wonder if there'll ever be a time when we or our descendants will be able to read these passages of truth or um, references to them even in fiction work and not feel that pain, right, that spiritual pain. And I wonder if maybe why I feel it or you or anyone would feel this is because it's a reflection of so many people's mindsets, still today. And just like uh Michelle was, she was are sharing with us that they're trying to rewrite history books with some crap about
Mhm.
like the Song of the South. Okay, come on.
Mhm.
It's so ridiculous. And I mean, and that's our story, right? Right. Our historical truth. And then,
Mhm.
and I have to think, if they're trying to do that to our historical truth, what are they doing to Native Americans? You know, what's next? They're going to say, well, they did have it kind of, oh, they welcomed them with open arms with beads and wampum.
Mhm.
Okay, because they didn't know the value of gold. Really? So, yeah.
You know, they said take New York for a cow. You know,
Mhm.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had having a conniption over this 1619 project.
Yes.
Hmm.
They don't want it taught in the schools. Um, because they're not trying to deal with, they're not trying to deal with truth. But I mean, what this story um, also made me think about was, how I'm always talking about the 500-year plan. Um, and so when I try to imagine 500 years from now, that is always the stumbling block. How do you hold on to memories, generation after generation, particularly when people in the present try so hard to not remember? And so it seems logical that there would be a subset of the population that is trained specifically for the work of being a memorial, to carry it on, and that the day would come when the more memorials were under attack, just like they are in the story. you know. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I think the 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 value in being able to look at these painful pieces of history is that it becomes it's like we're going around in circles. We're just going around in circles. And so how do you stop the Ferris wheel and get off? How do you go in another direction? And so when you've gone around the Ferris wheel and you've gone around the Ferris wheel and you've gone, eventually it's like, okay, I've seen this, and I'm getting busy. I'm getting off at the next stop. And it's that memory that I've seen this, I've been here, I'm not going down that path again. I mean, how many of us said to ourselves when the former guy would go into his thing about taking back his country, back to where? At what point are you talking about? Because from a Black person's perspective, a Black person with memory, there's no point back there. We don't want to do that again. So which part do you want to do again? So the memory is the armor, that kind of gives us the strength to say, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, when sometimes you'll hear, African people talk about as they were helping to sell us into slavery, they had no idea, um, what slavery was going to look like in America, because it's not what it looked like in Africa. Okay, well, now we know. Now we know. Do we want to do that again? So if you start with somebody, this is what gets me frustrated with kind of this new age attitude of the present, the whole just be, just just be that don't focus your energy on the past, don't focus your energy on the future, just be in the present. That's great as long as I'm safe in the present. But when you start to jig with my safety using old games, then maybe I'd be better off preserving some of those games in my memory banks.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Michelle. And it reminds me of when the movie Roots was out, and Alex Haley went to Africa, and they had to find the griots that knew the history for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. And so, if I recall it correctly, the griot had to tell the whole story. He couldn't just jump to Alex Haley's ancestors' part of the story. So you had to listen to decades of the history that this griot knew. Mm-hmm. And it was that important that this is how this was done. And it was just such a powerful, amazing thing that someone knew how everything connected. And then when everyone on Chicken George, his whole line, the grandchildren, everybody could tell their children about Kuta Kinte and Kizzy and everything. So even when Roots 2 came out, they were in, the 1920s and the whatnot, those people still knew the whole connection. And I just think that's such a powerful thing, because I could see how families are losing information that's only 30, 40 years old, much less 100 years old. It is just so not the priority when there's 200, 300 channels that you can watch on cable. So I just think that this brings home that it's important. And then the other thing that I wanted to say was that there's something about this question that says it has got to be a priority for us to figure out what we need in terms of a level of healing, so that when we come to a slave ship or a slave museum, that we have some practices or something that we rely on that says, this is how you shift yourself to support yourself in these moments when the history is so bleak. How do you use that to propel yourself forward, as opposed to distracting yourself with something that doesn't move you as a community, as a family, as a person forward? It's just, let's just be distracted. And for me, even when we were reading this simple story, I wanted to be distracted. I did not want to go on the slave ship today. It just felt like, no, not today. And so what's the affirmation? What's the insight that we all need that says, when I come to this, and I know that an ancestor has died or lost their life or has been brutalized, what is it? Where do I put that in my body that I support them and I support me without denying the truth of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can absorb it all. I mean, I'm thinking, as you're talking about these police killings, that are coming fast and furious. And, the kind of energy that the world expended responding to George Floyd's murder. You can't do that every time. You can't do that every time because it's you know it's so much bigger than that. And so, you know, you don't want to block it out completely, but at the same time, you can't absorb every one of these daily executions in the same way. And so I think there's something about seeing the pattern, seeing the essential elements, and, you know, not having to immerse yourself in the details of every example, but recognizing the thread that runs through all of this stuff and being honest about what that thread shows you, you know. Because it's hard. This this police, this is out of control. And then, you know, then they pass an Asian hate bill, which they should have done, you know. But why is our bill still floating around in Congress? Why? How is it debatable? What's the problem? You know, and it just concerns me. I mean, it concerns me with the voting rights. It concerns me with the reform of the police. You know, that Biden is going to be able to pass some of the economic initiatives that he wants to pass using the reconciliation process. But he's not going to be able to push through voting rights, police reform using that process. And he doesn't seem to be fighting to end the filibuster. So, you know, we could easily look up, it could be 2022, the House, the Senate could be back in Republican hands. And we'll still be talking about, we need police reform. We need voting rights. So I don't know, Kim. That's not an answer. That's just me saying.
That is so dystopian future.
You know, we've been down this road. We've been down this road before. Take voting rights. You know, I mean, all the effort that went into voting rights in the 60s, you pass some legislation, and it's not permanent. We got to go down this road again. So I don't know. You know, I believe that when you keep going, you know, you keep having the same problem and getting the same result, that it's time to open another window and do something different. You know. And I don't know what the different is, but they got us going around in circles.
Well, wow. You bring up an interesting question in my mind, and that is, we keep doing these same things. Maybe the way we're doing it is not the right way if we want to change. So what would that look like, right? You know, we abide by those amendments in the Constitution we feel comfortable with, depending on where we sit. And hmm, we allow ourselves to be influenced by media and religious beliefs.
Mhm.
But what does real freedom and equality look like? And how do we get there? Where, and maybe taking money out of the picture, because somehow it always comes back down to that, right? Somebody is profiting off of these decisions that are made. So someplace, in some aspect, uh, a temporary voting rights bill, the very fact that it has to be continually voted on, and re-upped, has got to make someone somewhere some money. Otherwise, well, yeah, hey, what difference does it make, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm looking for the connection. And then what is the connection between, a revisionist history and us, accepting that in our schools? And what is the connection with, um, you know, okay, I'm getting in trouble. Gangs like the police unions, continuing to be able to manipulate public policy that places vulnerable communities always in danger. So, something about the things that we value as human beings has to be changed. The stories we tell ourselves and that we are told have to change because it's not a healthy reality for a lot of us, you know,
Mhm.
and sometimes it doesn't depend on, I mean, well, what your faith is and what your skin color is if you got caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong bunch of folks. Your moon was crossed with, I don't know, Mars or something, and then now you feel, now you under the boot. You're in front of the barrel. You're, facing the tax guy because it was your number that came up and not some billionaire over there. So many different things that are just different forms of usury, right? Spiritual, physical, and financial usury of human beings all over. And unless it's making you uncomfortable, you don't really care. It's just another byline flashing across your electronic device.
Mhm.
Thank you, Gio. I love when you're talking about the connections. Um, I think that that's where to look. But as we are reading, what do you call this? As we are reading the fantasy stories, it just keeps coming back to we can tap into power that we don't know we have if only we would find ways to heal and help ourselves. And that's the thing that makes me feel like, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. As a matter of fact, they're the ones that are shooting at us. So if we are going to be saved, it's got to be us. And then, like Michelle is saying, you can't do this every day and you can't get into all the details, but there's got to be a way that when you are saturated and when something has impacted you, what do you do? And I know, like, sometimes I have to put on some Aretha Franklin, I got to put on some Sweet Honey in the Rock. I got to do something. And then sometimes I just have to be with my sisters, especially even this meeting. It gets me just enough juice, just enough gas in the tank to go back out there.
Mhm.
And I don't think that that's a priority for a lot of us. I do not think filling our cups as warriors, as people who are being oppressed, is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for Black women, sometimes we wear our bodies down to the bone when we are that agent that is actively pushing ourselves. And I don't know which one of you said it last week, but you were so impressed with how Rosa Parks did yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which who said that, but it was just mind-boggling that there's this combination of taking care of the body that
Mm-hmm.
is the only way, and the spirit that is the only way that we have a chance of dealing with the traumas that we face in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like Michelle said, and then even with that, you can't watch the news every day. You got to follow the thread, not every single thing.
That's
Lord
right.
have mercy. So,
Yeah, and they repeat stories, over and over and over again, and the videos over and over and over again. It really is traumatizing,
Yeah.
and I watched the murder trial, and oh my God. And you have to say to yourself, at this point, George is dead. See that? See the scene? See now? It was so traumatizing to just kind of stop and have that second where you are actually watching, and the way the guy was dingling the change in his pocket. I think the thing that traumatized me most was how uh, Derek, officer, whatever his name is, he had his hand in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That bestiality, that you're taking somebody's life, and it is so evil that you could do it with your hand in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You are under no sort of attack. You are under no duress. You're doing this as if you're eating a tuna fish sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much this man's life meant to you.
Yeah.
So after that, I then need to do something to build myself back up. That is my responsibility, to find some way to build myself up. And that has to start to become a priority for me, which needs some work.
Yeah. That was very brave of you to watch that whole thing.
I couldn't do it.
No. Mm.
I just have this thing where I want somebody to show up for me. And that has been how I've lived my life. It's like I'm at almost every march, everything that except for during COVID. COVID, that was my line. COVID was my line. Um, but with so many nephews and whatnot, I would just wanted somebody to show up for them,
Mm-hmm.
because I think if we all turn away at the same exact moment,
Mm-hmm.
that's dangerous. But I like what most people, when I talk to, they say, I can do it for 10 minutes, I could do it for 20 minutes, I could do it for 30 minutes, and that's all you got to do. Just do what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And like Michelle was saying, follow the thread. You don't have to sit through, 2 weeks of court trials.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But like you, Gio, I sit there trying to put together the connections. I'm saying, why do we even have to have a trial?
Mm-hmm.
What? And how
Exactly.
is it that the police department themselves are not held for murder because they trained that man? So it's
Yeah.
like the questions that just keep popping in my head when I'm watching these things, and it's nice to start having the questions. So maybe some point you'll find some of the answers. But that police young is powerful, bad.
Yeah, and I think the Chauvin's his supervisor was quite brave. You know what? You have to think about, what did it take for his supervisor to come out and say, "No, we don't train him how to do this," and and yeah, he was wrong. I can't imagine that happening in New York, okay, or Newark, or some other localities that I'm familiar with. How folks operate,
Mhm.
because it's such a powerful force. And how is the police union so strong and all the other unions, or crippled? What's the connection there? I think there's a story behind that. Um, yeah. And okay, so I watched a bit of it, and I'm like thinking, okay, these guys came out, they said what they had to say, they disputed the defense's weak, lackluster stories and reasonings. And so why, and I'm hoping that, okay, here we go again. And perhaps this is going to be a new um uh uh uh, s- uh, uh, uh revelation, not revelation, but a pattern, a procedure, so that other incidences, because this was proven, right? So this is an example of, well, that, was proven. So this next case can be proven on that. I don't have the, the legal terminology for that, but what's it called? Precedent, something
Yes.
like,
Precedent.
right.
Hmm.
So, then so the other officers who were involved, which I was hoping, to see, can now also be charged with that, aiding and abetting, or whatever, or not preventing this officer from taking someone's life. So these court cases can stand, and future juries, can take that into consideration. Yes, it's been proven that this is not how you're supposed to operate. Uh, and but still, I wonder how many times more will we have to do this, or will it be a case of, well, yeah, that happened, but it was just an exceptional case, and because we don't have a video of all of it, now
Right.
we're going to continue to change the story, like the poor man in North Carolina. They were serving some kind of warrant for him, and he was shot in the back of the head. Why do you need a whole pickup truck full of SWAT members to serve a warrant? Okay, one dude, two at the most.
Hmm.
Okay, it was like, yeah, a lynching. Okay, basically.
Hmm.
And so, and then we have to go through the maligning of the victim. Oh, he
Yes.
deserved it, because people want to believe that these figures who've been placed as up on pedestals as our authorities, the arm of our conscience, uh, were justified in their activity because they were trained, properly. What does properly look like? Like in our other group, on debt, I remember. No, I can't remember his name. Oh my God,
Rick.
brain fart. Rick
Rick.
was saying how, the police in, did he say England or France? In France, they get beat up because they don't use guns. So they have to learn how to fight, or use their batons or whatever they use.
Hmm.
And so if we have examples of how to operate with your community at a different level, where not everybody dies when they come in contact with you, why is America still, in their little enclaves, still practicing, this, modern day lynching, modern day assassinations of people, depending on whoever it is that shows up at the door, right? Who
Hmm.
shows up on the roadside, for you. I mean, look at the lady the librarian, what was she, 60 something, 70 something years old, who was yanked out of her car by her hair.
Oh no.
Yeah, that happened. for going 11 miles over the speed limit because she was on her way to a funeral. But, you know, you would like to think that, oh, it's just an isolated situation. It's just those two people and how they reacted to, what was going on. But the pattern, there is a pattern, and we refuse to accept that. We refuse to accept that in government. We refuse to accept that, in our neighborhoods, that there is a pattern here, and it requires more than just lip service or one conviction, or half a law passed,
Mhm.
to end it. They know how to end it, and that is, nationwide testing and standards for all of these cats. All right. So, not just everybody's little local yokel, what we gonna do here, is what everybody standardized kind of thing.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
back to money and power, local control, politics still. Right? How are we gonna escape this thing? Okay, I've been too long on my soapbox.
It's
We can
okay.
move
No,
on.
you're. Is Vanita trying to get in? I just saw she posted
Oh,
something on Facebook.
No, I don't see it.
Okay,
oh. Hmm.
I thought that was fine. I thought that was fine, Jill.
Yeah.
So why
But
don't
yeah,
we
memory and truth.
Hmm.
We
memory and
we,
what, Michelle?
we truth.
Yeah.
We know how to get out of it and how to not get out of it, and those 74 million uh, that wanted to sign up for another 4 years of the madness, um, they know that by changing, they know that people will forget, and that by changing the story, you create the world you want to have. So, it's very instructive. It's very interesting to watch this January 6th thing and all the kind of madness that has come out around it. From a congressman that said, "No, I wasn't scared." I mean, if it had been Black people, Black Lives Matter, then I'd have been scared. But these were just good people. Uh,
Good and crazy.
I think maybe we could read question 4. I don't mean to end the conversation so abruptly.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the time.
mhm.
So I'm just wondering if somebody, Michelle, if you could read question 4, and it's two parts.
Okay. My name is Jay. I am an Easterling for a library on the coast. I have already started refusing my meals. This tradition you write of is particularly strong amongst my people. If enough of us went on hunger strike, and if you can truly get word to the outside, then we could pose a challenge to hope. In the end, 86 prisoners signed up and refused their meals. There is power in numbers. Can you recall events where the powerless overtook the powerful by unifying in action? And B, back in her cell, Sai lay in utter exhaustion. Tears coursed down her cheeks, tears of sadness and horror at Jay's death, but also tears of relief. She knew that the letters were getting out and people were acting enough to threaten Holt's power. No future was certain, but that was all right. I felt confident that the unbinding was upon the world, being shared by the many, as memories should be. The prisoners risked their lives to save the lives of others. How far are we willing to go to save our communities, people, and planet? Mm. Um, well, there is power in numbers. I agree. Can you recall events where the powerless took over the powerful by unifying in action? Well, I don't know. I guess in a sense, all of the activism that was going on in the 60s can be an example of that. But, I mean, I'm hesitating because I think it's all perceptual. I don't know if there are any real examples where the powerless overtake the powerful. I think more from a strategic perspective, the powerful may pull back for a minute and try another approach.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they ever give up their power, or that the powerless ever really gain. I mean, we're up against things like nuclear war and drones and a whole lot of weaponry that this whole strength in numbers argument is kind of getting old for me. Because I mean, I think that the strength is I'm willing to die for the cause, and I think that most people are not. They can't really say that, and so as long as there's something you want to hold on to, a possession, another person, your own life, as long as there's anything you want to hold on to, then they have a hook. They have a hook. And, and so the only way, it's like dealing with somebody that's blackmailing you. The only way to defeat the blackmailer is to tell your own story, but it's like that. We don't want to do that thing, that ultimate thing. So, I like to be more optimistic, but sorry.
Sorry, not sorry, Michelle.
So ugly stuff we're dealing with.
Yeah. One
Geo.
thing. Oh, okay. Moving right along. No. So the one thing I was thinking about when we got to the hunger strike part of the story is glaringly thinking about other hunger strikes, around the world in our country, and past and present. Somebody has to care whether you starve to death, right? And if there's nobody out there who cares whether you starve to death, nothing's happening. You're just gonna die, right? Until they force feed you like some political prisoners. They come in there and stick, the funnel in your mouth and shove stuff down you, because there has to be outside opinion that what's happening to you is unjust. And if the people who are doing the thing to you have created, this story, this memory around the activity that's not in your favor and it's in their favor, they can justify it. You're, you dead. You're done. And so well, okay, harkening back to what Michelle said about, are we willing to sacrifice the things that are dear to us for something greater than we are? More often, that's not the case. Because at some point you decide, well, I don't need that bullet, or I don't need to get blown up. I don't need my
Right.
plane crashing into the plane I'm on crashing into the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people who wish things to continue as they have continued, they don't care. They'll do what
Right.
they have to do. If it's just assassinating your character, planting some evidence on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
or actually taking your life or threatening the lives of the people you love and care about,
Mm-hmm.
their goal is their goal. They are they have focus.
Mm-hmm.
And or people who are trying to change, things for the betterment of a group or all people or the planet, you know, we need help, right? It's got to be a bunch of us because we just don't work well together. Everybody's got their own priority, and it'll only be as far as I'm only stretching this far, no farther. Okay, like I'll click online, I'll sign the petition, but I ain't going out there standing in front of a tree, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So how do you get people to buy into a movement and believe that this is good for me, is good for everybody I care about, and then who they care about, and I can sacrifice this thing, or go beyond this line that I've drawn for myself. I'll go this far, no further, I'll put myself on the line. How do you get a person to do that? You know, I don't know, appeal to religious or spiritual beliefs or political beliefs. People have to care about,
Mm-hmm.
the thing. They have to care about it. They have to understand that change needs to take place, and more importantly, that it can be made. Right? Because if you don't believe, it's always been that way. Look at what happened to so and so. They tried to change it. It didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can't imagine it either. You got to get people to
Right.
imagine what that change looks like and how to get there, right?
Right.
And be really realistic about the steps it takes to get there. So I don't know if we can stay focused long enough. A large group of people, we know that tipping point number that it takes to make the change. If we can keep that many people focused long enough on the goal to actually be able to bring it into realization. So I don't know. I hope that was a little more hopeful for you, Kim. I
It
tried.
was.
I tried.
I, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Michelle. And I guess the thing that gives me hope is, the marches this summer. To see, marchers coming down the street where I live on for hours. It was that many people. It took hours for them to walk through Brooklyn and Manhattan, and these marches were happening in all the cities at the same time during COVID. And so there was this opportunity where you saw people putting their lives on the line because they couldn't take any more of the George Floyd, um, Eric Garner situation. So I think that I'm hopeful that, like you're saying and like Michelle is saying, that this is sustainable, that this isn't just a one-time thing, that this changes the culture. But I was amazed, and I've gone to many marches, but nothing like this. So my phone's about to ring. But so that gives me hope to see people masked and unmasked marching for George Floyd.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I think that there are moments where you just have to put it on the line, and then there's some people that you gotta leave behind and just say, catch you on the way back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
but I hear the responses. So the next time is my turn. I ain't asking that question never ever again. Because y'all went in deep, man. Y'all went in deep and told the truth. I think that's the powerful thing is that you told the truth.
Yeah.
So we got 10 minutes left. So do we want to talk about small and bright? Okay. So somebody, Gio, would you want to read question number 5?
Okay. Mhm. In Small and Bright, Orion must be punished. She has defended herself against her spouse, who was a danger to her. As she awaits her fate of surfacing, her mother Gemini visits and tells her of a possible plan for her survival. A. In order for the plan to work, Orion must still the loud voices of fear and listen to the wisdom from within. That is her only hope. To remember the plan and to save herself in the small window she has to retrieve the survival pack before she is doomed. What was true for Orion is true for us today. How do you or we quiet the voices of fear and listen to the wisdom from within? And B, Orion and all the women are taught to be warriors from birth. They learn to fight. They know this life will require that they become soldiers. Is it necessary for Black mothers to teach their daughters to become warriors? And if yes, at what age should this training begin? Oops, sorry. And if yes, at what age should this training begin and how extensive should it be? Would there still be room for love and Black joy in the training? And C, Orion's life was jeopardized both inside and outside of the home. When we look at the lives of Black women and girls, some are maimed in what should be the safety of their families. How do we win battles to keep the home from front secure before going out to fight our oppressors? Is there time to do both? Wow, great questions.
Oh, thank you.
Hmm. Well, for A, I think how do we quiet the voices of fear and listen to the wisdom from within? First, you have to recognize the voice of fear, right? What it is, what it's saying to you, or rather, what you're saying to yourself, because hmm, of what you believe or you think you believe is true. And then, as you have this conversation with yourself, because I tend to believe naturally we want to survive, right? We don't want to stay in that paralyzing place of fear. Then we remember the words of people who have spoken to us in our youth and as we were going about our lives that were encouraging and uh, will build you up, right? Something to hold on to. Even if that was something you read, some hmm, small and bright word, a star to guide you through that darkness. That's the fear that's trying to overcome you. Even if you've created that fear yourself, right? So, hmm. And ultimately, even though it may have come from outside, you took those words and made them a part of you. So yeah, that's wisdom from within. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Geo Van Zant. Thank you. I like that. Wow, I wish I had that on tape somewhere. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Uh, I'm looking at question B. Is it necessary for Black mothers to teach their daughters to become warriors? And if yes, at what age should this training begin and how extensive should it be? Would there still be room for love and Black joy in the training? Well, yes, I do think it's necessary for Black mothers to teach their daughters to become warriors as well as their sons. Um, and now that I've said that, I have to think about daughters, sons, whoever, whatever. I'm trying to think of the politically correct word. I don't know.
Okay.
But everybody, you know, because we're all we're living in very dangerous times. And so, you know, when I think about warriors, I'm not necessarily thinking about offensive warriors, but certainly finding, you know, figuring out how to survive and protect ourselves in this world. I'm thinking about the all the mass shootings by lunatics that we've had going on lately, and you know, I don't know if there's a way to protect yourself from that kind of situation. I mean, if we're not going to pass meaningful gun reform, and go about a process of you know, trying to at least restrict the lunatics from having the most dangerous weapons. And I guess, you know, we are just saying that that this is going to continue to be a world of just random violence, that you really can't protect yourself from other than being a total recluse, you know? But if you're not safe at the grocery store, you're not safe at the movie theater, you're not safe at the workplace.
Hey, Michelle, thank you for that doom and gloom.
Stop watching the news.
Yes, you do. I think you need to put a pause on that one. And you know what? That's something that you could teach your daughter, son, person as part of their warrior training. How to put a pause on outside influences
Yeah.
because it seeks to, you know, basically determine, train you how to think, you know, in the way that whoever wants you to think, instead of
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is good and self-fulfilling for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? As an individual, perhaps, you know, teaching them about, you know, and I'm thinking about warriors in fiction and media that I have seen. What are their qualities? And that is being able to think, right? Learning how to think and then choose wisely about what actions, they'll take based on the conclusions they've come to about the situation. And then situational awareness, what is that about? So um, definitely um, the physical ability to defend yourself, right? Because I don't know how many stories I've seen where young ladies, young men, whomever are placed in a physical situation where they need to defend themselves and they have no skills because their parents or whoever were their guardians never said, well, you need to go get in this martial arts class because I'm tired of you coming home, without your lunch money.
Mhm.
And these things are simple, but we've given over that power, to defend ourselves, thinking, well, someone else will come to my rescue. The teacher will come to my rescue. The cop, or somebody will come to my rescue when you will be in a situation where it's only you and the aggressor. What will you do?
Mhm.
Right? You will
Mhm.
be a victim. So that kind of thing where you can think, or and be aware of the situation. So, oh, I see three people over there in my peripheral vision, and I don't like the way they look. I'm just going to do another thing, right? To be
Mhm.
aware and then think ahead of, well, if I have to go this way, what will I do if such and such happens? Okay. Well, I'll
Mhm.
side sweep him and then I'll give him a chop, so whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but you know what I'm saying, right? To be able, and then if the situation never materializes, well, at least they had confidence, to think about if it happened, what I would do,
Okay.
you
Mhm.
know. And then on the spiritual front, learning how to heal yourself and protect yourself from all those influences that come at you. So
Mhm.
I think that's really important because that's where you live. That's where the you that is you lives. So how to protect that, and then how to bounce back from the different kinds of hurt that come to us. What's the lesson in that? And if there was no lesson, well, I can just still move on anyway. You know how to be,
Mhm.
how to persevere.
Mhm.
So yeah, and yeah, you can have black joy. You can have red joy. You can have green joy, because that's part of the training
Right.
is to keep the joy through the
Mhm.
process, right? So yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Why don't you? That was
Yeah.
lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both.
And I really feel um, strongly that Black parents, um, need the Black community needs a supplementary educational program outside the schools going on all the time. Um, like my son went through something called rites of passage when he was a young teenager, and they were at that point they were doing it for boys, but I think they do it for girls now, and but we ought to have that kind of thing going on just year round, because how long are we going to fight over what the school system does or does not provide? They again, we keep going around in circles, and they keep telling us we don't want to teach your children the truth. Oh, we are not
Yes.
going to teach your children the truth. We are not going to teach our children the truth. So okay, so then maybe all our children can get from the public school system is maybe how to read, write, and do arithmetic. but all of the warrior training, has to come outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, combination of outside and home, not to rely on the school. I think that is so true, Michelle. And to
It's hard. I mean, it's hard.
it should be
I mean,
easily
I can't
accessible or free.
imagine.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying it's hard. When I look at these parents and all they're having to deal with in this COVID era, I'm just grateful I didn't have to deal with that because, imagine being at home. You're trying to now work from home. You've got to now be the teacher.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, but if we ever want to get serious about getting free, I think it's just a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, but that most of what's coming at us is what we have to learn how to turn off, and it's distraction, we don't have to always have the object because they flashed it in our face.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not always critically important that we know, what Kim Kardashian did today.
Right.
So we got to learn where to focus our energy. And, we talk about this all the time, but, our kids are just under so many influences competing for their attention. So, I think probably first and foremost, we have to figure out how to teach them to what really matters and how to just focus 99.9% of your attention there.
Right.
And,
You said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is 7:33. So I think that's all the time that we have for our conversation. So thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Gio. And thank you to anybody who's watching us on YouTube for the recording.
All right.
Okay, and thank you, Kim, for these. Thank you for these very thoughtful, provocative, deep questions. And, you really, I don't know if we read either part, but in the first story, you make the connection to Guantanamo Bay hunger strike. And in the second story, you make the connection to domestic violence. And neither one of those issues was apparent to me as I read the story. So, I just thought it was wonderful that you saw that. Yeah.
Well, I did my Michelle. I went and looked up the author of that story, and she was the person who said that that story was based on Guantanamo Bay.
Oh.
Okay.
I never would have known that.
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, you can't come up in here sloppy now. You can't. You're rich.
I mean, I was impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and so the other story was about domestic violence, Small and Bright.
I think it had a lot of nice themes. I think she was in trouble because she apparently murdered her husband.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's why she
I
had to
didn't
be.
get why she was being punished. You know, I
Yeah,
knew she was
she was
being punished.
merged. He was attacking her, and
Okay.
she protected herself.
Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for the why of why she was she was in this cell. Uh,
Yeah.
and then it came a couple of lines that said he didn't love, I mean, she didn't love him, and he was jealous, and then he attacked her, which was, yes, perfect. How you deciphered that, Kim, as
Yeah, I
domestic
killed the man
violence.
who nearly killed me, but now
Hmm.
I
Oh,
die anyway.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
And
I missed
look,
that.
yeah, isn't that what happens to women in domestic partnership abuse situations where they have to, defend themselves by killing the aggressor, but then they're punished anyway. They get life in prison. Nobody ever says, they always say, "Oh, you should have left,"
Hmm.
or something. But how I'm gonna leave when he got the gun to my head, and a knife to my throat? Where am I going now? you
But it
know.
also makes me, I mean, I missed that part, probably because I was reading too quickly, but it makes me see that this whole image of small and bright, so she gets thrust out, she's got to go above ground. And, she's probably going to end up having a better experience in the bright. I mean, there's all this fear underground because nobody knows. They haven't been up there in 1,000 years. Nobody
Yeah.
Yeah.
knows. But she's going to come out and she's going to experience the sun and, flowers. And she may run into her brothers out there. And she is
Yeah.
probably going to have a better life. So I guess that's maybe another kind of um, meaning to the story that I had not thought about.
And I think they said
Yeah.
that the population was dying out too,
Mm-hmm.
so they
Oh.
needed more less inbreeding, I guess, and that they didn't have enough women. So if you go whoop one, there's not even enough women, and you still need to beat one.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Hmm.
Hmm. Mm.
Hmm.
So okay, well, um, yeah. So that was great. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes.
This was a
Thank
great
Yes.
you.
conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Y'all went in. Y'all went in.
well, you fed us a feast.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Y'all should both write the books. Y'all gotta write these books. Michelle on her political point of view, and Theo on the spirituality of resistance.
Oh, there you go. That's the title. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, you all.
Oh,
Until next week, and I think Nicole is up. Hopefully, Nicole will be here next week facilitating. So,
okay. I hope
see
she
you next week
all's
reading
well.
our story together.
Yay!
Bye. I need a
Good
kiss.
night, ladies.
Good
Yes,
night.
Bye.
indeed. Thank you, love.
Bye.